All right, today we want to talk to the landowner and we want to talk to them about where they can start evaluating their land and what the possibility is for their land. A lot of landowners, once they've gone to a point of ready to sell or ready to do something with their estate, they want to get a good gauge and bearing on where to start in understanding what it is that they have. Or the kids get the estate and they want the same thing. Well, what do we really have before we go to market? Well, this is a process to help you kind of get an understanding and gauge of what it is you have in your land. So one of the first things that you want to do is you want to figure out the zoning and what we call the community general plan and sentiment. So every city puts a blanket of code over everyone's property within the boundaries of the city. This blanket is to help you understand what it is you can do with your land. And it's a planning process the city does that entails the future of the community and its growth. So from the zoning side, it talks to specific uses and the code that's attached to those uses, whether it be commercial, industrial, residential, whatever have you. The community general plan is a little bit broader. It just talks to the future and what it is that they see as the community grows. And then you have the sentiment, which is the actual neighborhood or the surrounding home ownerships or property owners and what their feeling is on what your land should be or what you could do with your land. I know our forefathers might see that as kind of stealing property rights, and that's a different conversation for another day. But really, they still have sway and pull with what you can do on your land. So just take into consideration your neighbors and what their feelings are as well. Now, as part of the development process, you might want to understand what the process is in being able to access the max potential out of your land. Well, there's a planning and designing process where you maybe hire somebody to come in, look at the meets and bounds or the boundary lines of your property, and then also look at some of the zoning code and the possibility of uses on your land and say, well, to maximize your land, here are some planning or some designs that really work efficiently with the product of zoning in the general plan when incorporating them onto your actual property. And so it's a good practice to sit with a land planner and say, how can I be efficient within my zone? So that's another thing you want to understand. And then you also want to understand that there's engineering involved. Engineers come in and they actually say, okay, that's a great plan, but how does that connect into the current infrastructure that the city has? And how do we connect into that? And when talking to that, you start getting into what we call horizontals. So horizontals are like your streets, your roadways, your paths, sidewalks, curb gutter, asphalt, any of those things. Water lines, gas lines, power lines, and how you're going to take your plan live and make sure that it hooks in correctly to the city current infrastructure. That's the horizontal side, and then you'll want to understand the next step after horizontal is your vertical, and it's the structural planning of the buildings and what's actually going to go vertical on your property. So you have a planning and designing stage, you have an engineering stage, and you have a horizontal and vertical stage. We also want to understand the governing body and what the process is with that governing body. So you have city approvals and permits that are going to be needed and asked for permission from the city to be able to do what you're doing. Well, there's fees tied to those approvals, and there's also schedules. So for example, if I want to meet with the staff, they're like, well, we only meet regularly once a week on this day. You have to coordinate that with them. You also have, well, if you want to get in front of city council, who is the actual decision maker, you can do that a couple of times a month, or maybe they only do it if it's a smaller city. They might only do it once a month, right? So you want to understand that process and who you need to talk to. Is there a concept review first, where conceptually they review it, and then you submit that over to the commission and they recommend an approval of the concept, and then you go to a preliminary plan, and then you go to a final approval with the city council. There's a process and a schedule. So you want to sit down with your government agency, whether it be county or city, that's overseeing your property. There's also this thing where you're just outside the city and you're in the county, but the county wants you to go into the city, or the city has a plan that incorporates you when you do incorporate into the city, and that's called an annexation plan. And annexation has a process in of itself within this that can add timelines and schedules to stretch or delay or whatever. So just understand that. So schedule, timelines of the process, we talked to that. Understanding the different players, we talked to that. I think it was last week that we did a video that was specific to understanding the different roles everyone plays and the different players within the development process. I would take a chance to go back and review that. It would be very educational and helping you understand what a real estate attorney can do for you, what a real estate agent does for you or can do for you, what engineer does, what a geotech engineer can do for you in evaluating your topography, the geo side of your property. So just understand the different players, when they come in, when they should come in, have timelines and schedules so you have a gauge of when, later on I talk to, when you're negotiating, you understand why they're negotiating or somebody's negotiating with you on your value the way they are. And it's all dependent upon all this stuff that we're talking to right now. So understanding the different players is really important and what role they're going to play within your property if you want to maximize its value. Understanding your land value, we kind of talked to that. And the riskier your land is, the more you're going to take a hit on that. So if you can de-risk, some issues with your land and you can find solutions to that, now your property is way more marketable and you've shortened the timeline to actually seeing money. People will tie up for risk. They'll say, well, here's a contract, here's our timeline, but it has extensions and it's contingent upon whether or not we can get this value at within that time frame. And that's all based on what information they know or based on the timelines of working with the city. So if you can do some of that work initially for your land, then your land's going to be way more marketable, and they'll pay a premium for that because it takes away the cost of time from that as well as the risk. So just understand this process helps you also maximize its value just through understanding. And then we have understanding the contractual reasoning and negotiation for the process. We've talked to that. We just barely discussed that a little bit, or I just talked a little bit around the risk and why people contractually tie up landowners. So if I'm a landowner, and this is what we do, because I came up from the land ownership side, I always was fighting for the landowner. And with that being the case, I don't like tie-ups. Personally, that's not our approach. We try to earn business and not negotiate it or contractually bind ourselves to the land. What we try to do is we try to prove our value and what we're bringing to the landowner so that all this other stuff just falls into place and makes sense. It's way easier that way. And that's just our practice. But if you're not working with us, you're probably going to see a tie-up with extensions and different things. Give us a call. We'll talk you through that. Even if you already have a contract with somebody, bring it to us. Let us discuss it and help you understand it. We're just trying to be of a blessing and a service to those around us. There's also a deal clarity and understanding that maximizes the actual money and how fast you see it. So if I've answered a lot of these questions and it's really clear what my property is and what I can do, and it's dirt ready and you can move it, I'm willing to pay more sooner, is what the buyer's gonna feel like. I'll pay more sooner. We have deals, once they're packaged, that people close with money within 2 weeks. We've closed with money before because we were able to get through this process of understanding with property, because there was a lot of work that was already done, like master development plan, etc., where we made a decision in like a week and a half, and we're able to put our funds towards it. So this is a great process to help you understand where to start. Again, we have other videos that talk to all these different aspects. Check us out on our resource page. That will be super helpful in helping you and in being a resource and helping you on where to start. And just reach out to us. It doesn't cost you anything, free of charge to have a discussion with us. We would love that. And find us at mcclarycompany.com, and hopefully we can be of a value somewhere along the line here.